You see, family, God didn't put you here just to take up space, breathe His air, and enjoy His sunshine without a purpose. No. He wired you with gifts, He blessed you with talents, and He put a clock on your life. That means every second you live and every ability you have is not just for you. It's for His kingdom. The enemy wants you distracted, wasting time, chasing things that won't last. But God says, time is one of the most precious resources that God has placed in our hands, yet it is the one we most often waste, overlook, or misuse. Every tick of the clock is not owned by us. It is loaned to us by the God of eternity. You didn't create time, and you can't manufacture more of it. You don't even know how much of it you have left. That's why the Bible reminds us, teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. Time is not your possession, it's God's gift. And one day, you will give an account for how you spent it. Think about it. Everything else in your life can be replaced. If you lose money, you can earn it back. If you lose possessions, you can buy new ones. Even broken relationships can sometimes be restored. But time, once it slips through your fingers, can never be recovered. That moment, that hour, that day, it's gone forever. That is why Scripture calls us to redeem the time, because the days are evil. Time must be seen as a sacred trust from God, not a personal entitlement. So often, we treat time like it belongs to us. We say things like, it's my time, I'll do what I want with it, or I'll get serious about God later. But family, let me tell you, later is not promised. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. All you truly have is the moment you are living in right now. The devil knows this, and that's why his number one strategy is distraction. If he can't destroy you, he will waste your time. He'll keep you busy but not productive, entertained but not fulfilled, scrolling but not growing, working hard but never working for God. And at the end of the day, you'll look up and wonder where all the time went. But when you recognize that time is God's gift, your perspective shifts. You begin to ask, oh, how do you want me to spend these hours? What should I prioritize in this season? Where should my focus be? Time is not something to be killed. It's something to be invested. And the only investment that pays eternal dividends is when your time is spent serving the purposes of God. Think of Jesus. He lived only 33 years on this earth, and only 3 of those years were in public ministry. But in that short span of time, he changed the course of history and eternity. Why? Because he never wasted a moment. He said, I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no man can work. Jesus understood that his time was a gift with an expiration date. If the Son of God treated time as sacred, how much more should we? The tragedy is not just that we waste time, but that we waste it on things that don't even matter. We spend hours comparing ourselves to others, worrying about tomorrow, chasing after material success, or holding on to grudges that rob us of peace. But God gave you time to grow in Him, to love people, to build His kingdom, and to fulfill the assignment He placed on your life. Every hour wasted on what doesn't matter is an hour stolen from what does. When you realize your time is God's, it makes you intentional. You wake up each day knowing this is another opportunity to honor Him. You pray differently because you don't want to pray empty words. You want to pray with purpose. You love differently because you don't want to leave people wondering if they matter to you. You serve differently because you don't want to stand before God and say, I was too busy. You live differently because you understand the clock is ticking and eternity is closer than you think. Family, let me press this home. Time is kingdom currency. God has placed it in your hands and He expects you to spend it wisely. One day He will ask, what did you do with the years, the months, the minutes I gave you? Will you be able to say, Lord, I invested them in you, in people, in your mission? Or will you have to admit, Lord, I wasted it on myself? Don't wait until it's too late to value what God has already given. Your time is not your own, it belongs to Him. Use it while you still have it, because once the clock runs out, there are no do-overs, no second chances, only eternity. Every talent you have is just an accident, a random skill, or something you developed on your own. It is a deposit from God placed inside of you for the purpose of advancing His kingdom. Talents are not toys for self-glory, they are tools for divine service. The Bible makes this clear in the parable of the talents. The master gave each servant resources to manage, expecting them to multiply what was given. In the same way, God has entrusted every believer with gifts, skills, and opportunities, and He is watching to see what you will do with them. The danger in our culture is that we've turned talents into a stage for ourselves rather than a platform for God. People sing, preach, write, create, build, teach, or lead, but too often the motivation is self-recognition, not kingdom expansion. But when you understand that what you have is on loan from heaven, you stop asking, how can I use this for me? And start asking, Lord, how can this glorify you? Your ability is a kingdom assignment wrapped in human skill. Think about Joseph. He had the gift of interpreting dreams. That talent wasn't just for him to impress his brothers or entertain Pharaoh. It was a God-given ability that positioned him to save an entire nation and the people of God from famine. His gift became a tool that opened doors of influence and carried out God's plan. Or consider David. His skill with a sling may have seemed like a simple shepherd's trick, but in God's hands that talent became the weapon that brought down Goliath and ushered in victory for Israel. Over and over again, Scripture shows us that when talents are surrendered to God, they become instruments of kingdom transformation. But too many bury their talents in fear, laziness, or distraction. Some believe their gift is too small to matter. Others compare their talent to someone else's and convince themselves they have nothing to offer. But the truth is, God never wasted His creative power. If He put a gift in you, no matter how big or small it's seen, it has kingdom purpose. When you bury it, you rob not just yourself, but the world of the blessing God intended through you. Talent also well limited to what we call spiritual gifts inside the church. Yes, preaching, teaching, and serving are vital, but so are the talents of administration, leadership, craftsmanship, art, music, innovation, and problem solving. God can use the businessman who builds with integrity, the artist who paints truth, the teacher who shapes young minds, the mechanic who serves honestly, and the cook who feeds with love. In the kingdom, there is no such thing as a talent too ordinary. Every skill can become sacred when it's dedicated to the King. One of the greatest lies the enemy whispers is that your talent is yours to keep. He convinces people that their gifts are for self-promotion, personal gain, or worldly success alone. But here's the truth: if you use your talent only for yourself, you may gain applause on earth, but lose reward in heaven. Kingdom service is what gives eternal meaning to your ability. That song you sing when it draws hearts closer to God becomes more than just music. It becomes ministry. That business you run when it funds missions or blesses families becomes more than a company. It becomes kingdom stewardship. That skill you have when surrendered to the Lord becomes a testimony of His power working through you. God is not looking for talent wasted. He is looking for talent invested. He doesn't just want to see your ability. He wants to see your availability. Because your talent in His hands can do more than you ever imagined. It can break chains, heal hearts, build communities, and change destinies. The question is not whether you are talented. The question is whether you will give your talent back to the one who gave it to you. And one day, like the servants in the parable, you will stand before the master. He will ask, "What did you do with what I gave you?" Will you hear Him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many"? Or will you hear Him say, "You wicked and lazy servant, you buried what I gave you"? The answer depends on what you do right now. Your talents are not ornaments to show off. They are not possessions to hoard. They are divine instruments to serve God's purposes. When you give them back to Him, they multiply, they bless, they expand, and they outlive you. Use your talents for kingdom service, because that is the reason you were given them in the first place. One of the greatest tools the enemy uses to derail God's people is not always distraction, it's distraction. He knows he may not be able to snatch away your salvation, but if he can keep your eyes off of your purpose, he can keep you from fulfilling your destiny. Distraction doesn't always come looking like sin or outright rebellion. Many times it comes disguised as something small, something harmless, something that feels urgent but is not truly important. And while you're busy chasing what doesn't matter, you are neglecting the very thing God called you to do. Distraction is subtle because it convinces you that you still have time. You tell yourself, "I'll get serious tomorrow. I'll focus on my calling after this season. I'll serve when things settle down." But the truth is, tomorrow is not guaranteed, and the longer you delay, the further you drift from the path God has laid before you. Destiny requires focus, and focus requires discipline. The moment you let distraction run the show, your destiny begins to shrink. Consider the story of Martha and Mary. Martha was busy, distracted with serving, making sure everything was in order. But Mary sat at the feet of Jesus, listening to his words. Jesus said, "Martha, are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the better part." Martha wasn't doing something evil. She was serving. But she was distracted from the main thing, intimacy with Jesus. That's how distraction works. It shifts your attention from the essential to the secondary until you wake up realizing you've been busy but not fruitful. The enemy knows that if he can't make you bad, he'll just make you busy. He'll flood your life with noise, opportunities, obligations, entertainment, and temptations that keep you running in circles, but never running toward your destiny. You'll spend hours on social media scrolling through other people's lives instead of building your own. You'll chase money but miss ministry, chase pleasure but miss purpose, chase status but miss significance. And all the while, the clock of destiny keep ticking. Look at Samson. He was chosen, anointed, and empowered by God to deliver Israel. But he kept getting distracted by women, by compromise, by his own desires. Eventually, distraction cost him his strength, his freedom, and his sight. His destiny was delayed because his attention was divided. That is the danger of distraction. It doesn't just take your time, it takes your future. On the other hand, look at Nehemiah. When he was rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, his enemies trying to distract him, calling him down from the work to meet with them. But Nehemiah said, "I am doing a great work and I cannot come down." That is the posture of someone who refuses to be distracted. He recognized the value of his assignment and refused to waste time on what didn't matter. That kind of focus is what keeps destiny intact. Every destiny requires saying no to distractions. You can't say yes to everything and still walk in your calling. Distraction pulls you in 100 directions. Destiny calls you in one. To stay on course, you must learn to discern what is important, what is good from what is God. Not everything that grabs your attention deserves your energy. Sometimes, the most spiritual thing you can do is close the door, shut off the noise, and focus on the assignment God placed in your hands. Family, hear this: distraction is costly. It costs marriages because people pour more attention into their devices than their spouses. It costs children because parents are too busy chasing success to invest time in their homes. It costs ministries because leaders get caught up in popularity rather than faithfulness. And most tragically, it costs believers their destinies because they never gave God their undivided attention. But the good news is you don't have to live distracted. You can choose, like Mary, to sit at Jesus' feet. You can choose, like Nehemiah, to say, "I can't come down." You can choose, like Paul, to press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Focus is the antidote to distraction, and focus comes when you keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and finisher of your faith. Your destiny is too important to be wasted on distractions. Don't let the enemy steal your focus with temporary pleasures, pointless arguments, or endless noise. Guard your attention, protect your time, and keep your heart centered on the mission God has given you. Because if distraction is the enemy of destiny, then discipline, focus, and obedience are the pathway to it. Stay focused, and you will walk into everything God has already prepared for you. What you do with your life echoes far beyond the years you spend on this earth. Every choice you make, every seed you sow, every act of faithfulness carries a ripple effect into eternity. Eternal impact doesn't come from flashy moments or grand gestures. It comes from steady, faithful investment in the things of God. The world teaches us to invest in what we can see, money, possession, status. But heaven calls us to invest in what we cannot see, because only what is eternal will last. Jesus illustrated this principle when he spoke of laying up treasures in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy and where thieves cannot break in and steal. In other words, don't pour all your energy into building what time will eventually erase. Pour your life into the kingdom, because the kingdom will never fade away. Faithful investment is not about how much you have, but how consistently you use you've been given for God's glory. Think of the widow who put 2 small coins into the offering. To others, it seemed family when it's all said and done. Life is short, time is precious, talents are sacred, and eternity is real. You don't have forever to get this right. God has given you, clock that is ticking, abilities that are unique and opportunities that are divine assignments. The enemy will try to pull you off track with distractions, but you must remember, your destiny is too valuable to waste. Every moment matters. Every gift matters. Every choice matters. One day each of us will stand before the Master, and he won't ask how popular we were, how much money we made, or how comfortable we lived. He will ask, what did you do with what I gave you? Did you turn your time and your talents into kingdom impact? Did you serve me faithfully with the minutes I placed in your hands? Did you multiply the gifts I deposited in your life? Did you remain focused when the world tried to pull you away? The greatest tragedy would be to reach the end of life and realize we buried what God gave us, wasted the time he entrusted, and lived distracted from his calling. But the greatest victory is to finish strong, to look back and know that your days counted. Your gifts blessed others, your focus stayed true, and your life pointed people to Jesus. That is eternal impact. That is what it means to live for the kingdom. So I challenge you today, redeem the time, dedicate your talents, resist distraction, and invest faithfully in what will last forever. Live not for the applause of men, but for the approval of God. And when your clock runs out, may you stand before him and hear the words every believer longs for. Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Because a life spent for the kingdom is never wasted. It is multiplied into eternity.